Fine, I'll marry him. The emperor intended to arrange a marriage for the dying 9th prince. My sisters all refused to marry him, crying in fear, but I smiled. Was there anything more carefree in the world than having wealth, status, and no husband? Yet after marrying him, I'd had dozens of mourning gowns tailored, and the 9th prince still refused to die. He even invited me to share his bed every night. He said, "My lady, it's so cold sleeping alone. You'll marry him." Father let out a sigh of relief after hearing this and nodded. "You're indeed the most suitable one. I am Jiangyu, the most unloved eldest young lady of the Jiang mansion. My mother died giving birth to me, and father blamed me for having a hard fate, never showing me a shred of affection since I was a child." The emperor's marriage edict had come. The 9th prince was both unfavored and gravely ill. Father could not bear to send any of his daughters to suffer, except for me. I suddenly smiled. In truth, he was right. I was indeed the perfect fit, for marrying the 9th prince was far more comfortable than staying in this house. "She can't marry. The eldest young lady is betrothed to cousin Song." My wet nurse stepped forward to protect me. Just then, Song Yuan walked in. He was the nephew of father's second wife, Mrs. Jiang, born into a poor family but immensely talented. As soon as he entered, my younger sisters all looked at him with bashful, shy eyes. In previous years, Song Yuan had never been so popular. I was the only one in this house who treated him well. I used my monthly allowance to support him, and if there were a few extra pieces of meat in my bowl, I'd split half with him. Father once said that after Song Yuan passed the imperial examination, he could come to propose marriage. Since then, everyone in the house had taken our betrothal as a given, including Song Yuan and me, but this year was different. Song Yuan had topped the imperial examination rankings and become a rising star with a boundless future, and so, my 3 younger sisters began to show him favor, intentionally or not. I had thought that even if Song Yuan had no love for me, he would at least be grateful. I waited for him to propose, not because I loved him deeply, but simply because I wanted to leave this place, and he was the perfect choice, until the night before last, when I saw him embracing my second sister under the flowers, pouring out their affection for each other. Only then did I realize he looked down on me for being unloved, and had never had his eyes on me. "Cousin, you and I share the bond of brother and sister. Talk of marriage is simply inappropriate," so said Song Yuan. No one in the room looked surprised. Surely, everyone had known about him and my second sister. It didn't matter. I had not given him my heart, either. At most, I'd eaten a few less pieces of meat over the past 7 years. Marriage is a matter for parents to decide and matchmakers to arrange. They have nothing formal between them. Where is this betrothal coming from? Father frowned, signaling my wet nurse to step back. "This matter is settled. I shall reply to the emperor today." Before he left, he told Mrs. Jiang to prepare my dowry and wedding affairs. I strolled slowly outside, when someone called after me, "Cousin Yu, I have something to say to you." Song Yuan chased after me, his eyes filled with guilt. I looked at him, raising an eyebrow. "Uncle ordered me to say that. I dare not disobey him." He lowered his eyelids, his tone utterly innocent. I see." I nodded. "If young Master Song has nothing else to say, I'll take my leave. Rumors on the street say the 9th prince won't live past the Mid-Autumn Festival." Song Yuan whispered, "When the time comes, I can help you fake your death and flee to the south of the Yangtze. I'll soon be sent to the south for official training too. And I can take care of you there." I burst out laughing. Save these words for my second sister. "You and I are neither kin nor friend. No need to worry about me." Song Yuan froze, staring at me in shock. He had not expected me to know. I waved a hand, not wanting to say more, but he chased after me, trying to explain. "Don't blame me. Though I like you, life together would be hard for us. Officials in the court cling together and form cliques. If I marry you, Uncle won't help me. But if I marry Cousin Wanna, Uncle will truly nurture and support me." I thought back to the first year he came to the Jiang mansion. He wore patched clothes, sat in the yard eating with the servants, thin and humble. I knew he had curried favor with my other sisters first. Before coming to me, I did not look down on him, and treated him with genuine respect. I thought he would feel at least a little grateful. But clearly, I had given him too much credit. Then I wish you a bright future. Soaring to great heights. 2. When the emperor heard I had volunteered to marry the 9th prince, he was overjoyed. Father received a reward and was delighted. He sent for me specially to give me a few words of admonition. I listened respectfully, then handed him the list of my mother's dowry from all those years ago, demanding he give it all back to me, and replace anything that had been spent or used up. Father flew into a rage, scolding me for being petty and short-sighted. But he did not dare to refuse me. After 17 years of waiting, I finally had what was rightfully mine. On my wedding day, Song Yuan stood at the gate, murmuring my name, Cousin Yu. His tone was filled with regret and loss. With my red wedding veil covering my face, I of course paid him no mind. As I entered the prince's mansion, the imperial edict arrived shortly after. The 9th prince, Zhao Huijin, had been granted his own mansion at the age of 7, now, at 20. The emperor finally conferred a royal title upon him. His title was Jin, meaning as precious as pearls and jade, enduring forever. It was a double celebration. The prince's mansion was decorated with lanterns and streamers, the sound of firecrackers shaking the heavens. Yet the bridal chamber was deathly silent. I lifted my own veil, and my eyes fell on Zhao Huijin, leaning against the head of the bed, watching me with a smile. He was very thin, making his facial features all the more distinct. His eyes were pure and clear, his black hair flowing like a waterfall, his bearing as elegant as jade. He was tall, and the bright red wedding robe he wore now added a touch of vivid splendor to his gentle temperament. I had to admit, in my 17 years of life, Zhao Huijin's looks were the most exquisite I had ever seen. I was very satisfied. Though his health was poor, this face was a feast for the eyes. He smiled softly at me. His voice warm and kind. Was the journey smooth? His voice was beautiful too, like light jade beads rolling on a plate, like the low pluck of a chain string, able to calm one's heart in an instant. I removed my own phoenix crown and sat down on the stool beside the bed. It was all smooth sailing. Your Highness, are you tired today? He shook his head. I've been lying down all day. How could I be tired? He looked at me with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry you've been wronged because of my poor health. I was not wronged, but I had not expected him to say such considerate words. You are too kind, Your Highness. I have married above my station. How could I feel wronged? Jiang. He paused, then said, my courtesy name is Huijin. How should I address you? Jiangyu. I have no courtesy name. Your Highness may call me whatever you wish. He nodded slightly, falling silent for a moment. Jiangyu, you may move about the mansion freely. If you need anything, you may come to me at any time, or go to Eunuch Wang. I nodded. He went on, his tone as gentle as a trickling stream. Naturally, you are the mistress of this house. Do not be constrained by etiquette. If you wish, you may make all the small and great decisions here yourself. As he finished speaking, he coughed twice, his cheeks flushing slightly. I poured a cup of warm tea and handed it to him. He stared at me for a moment in surprise, then whispered a quiet thank you. He drank the tea with refined manners. When he lowered his eyes, his long eyelashes cast a faint shadow, making him look like fragile white porcelain. Elegant as jade, pure as an orchid, divine as a god. This was what it meant. Jiangyu. He paused, then spoke again. My days may be numbered, but you need not worry. Before I die, I will make sure you are well settled, ensuring you live a worry-free life for the rest of your days. I was overjoyed. In the Jiang mansion, I had not even been allowed to move about freely, let alone make my own decisions. He had said I was the mistress here. I did not take it entirely to heart, but I somehow believed in his sincerity. So far, this marriage had made me extremely satisfied. I thought for a moment, then asked him, is there anything I can do for you, Your Highness? He was such a modest and gentle man, I could not take his kindness for granted. Doing what I could for him was only right. A simple exchange of favor for favor, manage the household affairs, handle the daily trivialities, or perhaps, bear you a child or two. I asked earnestly. He stared at me in shock, his face flushing bright red in an instant. 3. He said no. I looked at him in confusion, wondering which offer he had refused. Cough, cough. He covered his mouth with his fist. His face and earlobes tinged with a faint red. He whispered, My days are too few. Having a child would only condemn them to a life of hardship." He paused, gradually calming down, then lifted his eyes to look at me steadily. "Jiangyu, I do not wish to be a burden to you either." I wanted to tell him that I was already prepared to be a widow, and would never remarry, so for the rest of my life, I would be happy to have a child by my side, but clearly, he was unwilling. He probably felt guilty. And added, "Then, would you take charge of the household affairs of the mansion? It will be a little tiring, though." I smiled and shook my head. "It is enough that your highness trusts me." He said a soft good, then immediately summoned the steward, arranging for me to take over all household matters in 3 days' time. We had talked for a long time, and he could no longer hold on. Falling into a deep sleep, I returned to my own separate room. And only then did I realize Zhao Huijin had never intended to consummate our marriage from the very beginning. His illness is truly serious. I found a piece of white cloth at the bottom of a chest and began cutting it to make clothes, passing the time. My wet nurse guessed that Zhao Huijin might be unable to consummate the marriage because of his poor health. No need to speculate. Whether he cannot or will not does not matter, but my wet nurse urged me to try again, telling me I must bear him a child or two, no matter what. I yawned. I had thought I would lie awake all night, but as I lay down, wrapped in the soft mattress and the fragrant brocade quilt, I fell asleep at once. I slept until dawn, warm and comfortable, neither too hot nor too cold. No longer did I fear waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of rain, with muddy water and broken roof tiles falling on me. In the morning, I went to the palace. The emperor was busy. So only the empress saw me, perfunctorily giving me a jade bracelet as a gift. As I left, I heard the palace eunuchs whispering among themselves, "The emperor and empress have snubbed her so badly." I thought the princess consort Jin would kick up a fuss, but it turns out she's just as weak and timid. She has no courage to make trouble, even if she wanted to. That title is just an empty name, nothing more. Eunuch Wang was so angry he wanted to go back and scold them, but I stopped him. "They are not wrong, eunuch. Do not be angry," I said calmly. To my surprise, Zhao Huijin nodded in agreement. "They are indeed right." Eunuch Wang looked at the two of us, and could not help but laugh and cry at the same time. Zhao Huijin and I exchanged a glance, and suddenly burst out laughing together. Making trouble was easy enough, but one had to know what benefits one could gain from it. Otherwise, what was the point of wasting the effort? Striking hard is a must. But striking accurately is even more important. Zhao Huijin looked at me, surprise swimming in his eyes. The trip back to my maternal home the next day was even more casual. I had no intention of tiring Zhao Huijin by taking him with me, yet he insisted on going to save face for me. Upon entering the Jiang mansion, all my sisters and relatives were waiting. When they saw Zhao Huijin, their faces were filled with astonishment as if they had beheld a god. Watching them drop to their knees in a row to pay their respects, my mood grew even more pleasant. "Thank you for your hard work, Your Highness." I helped him into the carriage. His body stiffened for a moment, then relaxed again. It is what I ought to do. No need to be polite with me. I still had to thank him, after all. No matter how hard I tried on my own, I could never make my father kneel to me. In this regard, Zhao Huijin had an innate advantage. Managing the household affairs of the prince's mansion involved more matters than I had imagined. Putting aside the external social interactions for the time being, even the internal accounts of each department would keep me busy for a while. These accounts look clear at a glance, but once you start sorting them out, they turn into a complete mess. After reading the account books, I said to Eunuch Wang, "Are there any off-limits areas? If not, shall I take action?" Eunuch Wang stared at me in surprise, presumably curious about how I intended to act. He said there were no off-limits areas and told me to make my own decisions, so I did not hold back. The next day, I took the account books and met with each steward one by one. I've looked closely at the outer courtyard's procurement expenses. They increase by 10 taels every month. How do you manage that? Such petty tricks only worked because there was no woman in charge of the mansion, allowing them to brazenly exploit the loopholes. The steward denied it and spouted nonsense. "You don't handle these matters, so you wouldn't understand. Prices for goods outside go up every month." "Is that so?" I tossed the price list I had obtained in front of him. I buy a catty of meat for 40 wen, yet you pay 50 when a catty for 40 catties. How exactly did the price go up? Tell me, and I'll stand up for you. That day, the prince's mansion was bustling, with the crack of wooden paddles striking flesh echoing one after another. During dinner, I told Zhao Huijin about the matter, and he actually laughed. Did it work? He asked. Of course it did. I leaned a little closer to him and whispered. I didn't take a one-size-fits-all approach. The punishment was determined by the amount of money embezzled and the culprit's attitude. Zhao Huijin nodded in approval. Rewarding merit and punishing wrongdoing clearly, with consistent rules this way, they can't resent you, and they'll learn your rules. They'll act in accordance with them from now on. Very well done. Thank you for your approval, Your Highness. I clinked my cup against his. He smiled softly. You've worked hard. It's only right, I smiled back. Half a month later, I had complete control over the household affairs of the mansion. In the 8th lunar month, Zhao Huijin personally handed over the external affairs to me as well, his shops, farmlands, tea plantations, and orchards. Though scattered and not overly extensive, there were quite a few of them. His Highness trusts you, but you shouldn't overwork yourself. There's no need to be so meticulous about everything. My wet nurse felt sorry for me. When working for someone else, how can you be lazy? I tapped the abacus, not lifting my head. It's like the manager and chef of a restaurant, they take the boss's salary, so they must do their jobs well. I lived here and had the life I wanted. I ought to repay him with all my ability. My wet nurse nudged me and hastily called out toward the door. Your Highness. I went to the door and held his arm. Why are you up? Do you have something for me to do? He stared at me deeply and quietly for a moment, then his expression softened, and he said in a low voice, the 10th prince's son is having his full-month feast, and has invited us. But it's nothing important, I can go alone. I can go with you. I wouldn't feel at ease leaving you by yourself. I asked him to sit down. Do we need to prepare a gift? He was holding the account books I had kept and looked up at me in surprise. What? Do we need to prepare a gift? I asked again. He nodded and said politely, then I'll trouble you with it. For Prince Rui was 1 year younger than Zhao Huijin. Yet he had been granted a royal title when he received his own mansion at the age of 11. The Prince Rui's mansion was resplendent and magnificent. In comparison, our Prince Jin's mansion was like a humble household. The newborn baby was adorable. I glanced at him a few times and chatted with the other ladies, when I suddenly heard laughter from the pavilion over there. Several princes were joking around. I caught snippets of their conversation. They were teasing Zhao Huijin. Zhao Huijin did not take offense, responding calmly all the while, his face impassive. I walked toward the pavilion and just as I arrived, I heard Prince Rui talking about some medicine. This medicine works wonders, it'll keep you going 7 times a night. No problem. The other princes burst into raucous laughter. Zhao Huijin had looked indifferent, but when he saw me walk in, his expression darkened. He said to Prince Rui, don't talk nonsense. But Prince Rui refused to let it go. What kind of medicine is it? I asked, feigning curiosity, afraid I would be embarrassed. Zhao Huijin held my hand and shook his head, telling me not to ask. Prince Rui, however, persisted. He had been used to teasing his sickly, unfavored 9th brother since childhood. It's a secret medicine that lets you go 7 times a night and guarantees a son, he said with a playful grin. I looked suddenly enlightened and linked my arm through Zhao Huijin's. Your Highness, we must get this medicine. I wouldn't believe anyone else, but the 10th prince has 3 sons already. His word carries weight. After I spoke, I gently squeezed Zhao Huijin's hand. His fingers were slender and long, yet ice-cold. I subconsciously warmed them with my own. Zhao Huijin's eyes, crinkled with a faint smile, fell softly on our clasped hands. The pavilion fell silent all at once. Prince Rui's face turned bright red with embarrassment. I'm not sick, I don't need this medicine. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at the crown prince, then replied to Prince Rui with a naive look. I see, then the 10th prince is truly impressive. With 3 sons by his side, he must be full of confidence. I had said this for the crown prince's ears. The crown prince had only 1 son, far fewer than Prince Rui. Sure enough, he sipped his tea. his expression growing unsightly. I took Zhao Huijin's hand and stood up. The wind is picking up. Let's go home, Your Highness. This kind of socializing was not worth the trouble. Zhao Huijin looked at me with a smile, coughed twice for effect, and nodded. Very well, ninth brother. I'll have someone send the medicine to you later, Prince Rui shouted after us. And another thing, this princess consort of yours is too sharp-tongued and fierce. Just divorce her. Zhao Huijin stopped walking and stared at Prince Rui quietly. For some reason, though his gaze was as calm as ever, for a split second. I caught a glimmer of coldness in it, but it was only a split second, and his calm expression returned. I thought it must have been my imagination. Zhao Huijin and I returned to the mansion together, and he did not speak a word on the way. Later, the medicine actually arrived, a jar of brewed medicinal soup, carried by Prince Rui's personal steward, who waited for Zhao Huijin to take it. By the time I returned to our room, Zhao Huijin had already drunk it. I had intended to scold Prince Rui's steward, but the next moment, Zhao Huijin began coughing up blood. It's poisoned, Eunuch Wang shouted, and immediately ordered the steward to be detained. 5. Poisoning a prince was a grave matter, so I did not hold back. After making a scene in the palace, I went to the Crown Prince's mansion. Your Highness, Prince Jin is gentle by nature. The teasing in the past was all harmless fun, but this time it's poisoning, a matter of life and death. If you refuse to intervene, then am I also entitled to send someone to kill Prince Rui? The Crown Prince stared at me in shock. I intended to force the Crown Prince to take a stand. It was unfair that the four of them stood united as brothers, yet excluded Zhao Huijin entirely. If they were going to make things difficult for him, then everyone would suffer. When I returned to the mansion, the imperial physician had already left. He said the poison was not strong enough to be fatal on its own, but Zhao Huijin's frail body made his condition extremely critical. Zhao Huijin lay on the bed, his face as pale as paper, devoid of any color. I said in a deep voice, "If you go, I will avenge you." As I spoke, I suddenly felt his fingers twitch. I called his name several times, but he gave no response. Your Highness may not make it through this, my wet nurse cried non-stop. Young lady, your fate is too bitter. I did not share her sentiment. After all, I had long been prepared to be a widow. Man proposes, heaven disposes. Zhao Huijin remained unconscious for 3 days. The Crown Prince impeached Prince Rui, and with him taking the lead, memorials impeaching Prince Rui flooded the imperial court. For plotting to harm Prince Jin, Prince Rui was flogged 100 times. Demoted from a 1-character prince to a 2-character prince, and exiled to his fief in the northwest. Before he left, he stormed into the Prince Jin's mansion. What do you want? I asked him. Tell ninth brother this. I think he's worthless. I'd kill anyone but him. I never do things that bring no benefit. Prince Rui said. I nodded. If it really wasn't you, then the one who poisoned him is killing 2 birds with 1 stone, driving you away and poisoning Prince Jin to death, I said coldly. Prince Rui's eyes bulged with rage. I know who it is. I will not let him get away with this. He left in a furious rage. It would have been perfect if this had all been a ruse by Zhao Huijin. Without lifting a finger himself, he would have gotten rid of Prince Rui and even made another prince an enemy in the process. Unfortunately, Zhao Huijin was too pure. Sometimes I wondered how the imperial family could raise such a clean and innocent prince. I ordered the morning hall to be prepared. The imperial physician said Zhao Huijin could pass away at any moment. I could not sleep that night, so I sat by his bed to keep him company. These past few days, the weather had turned a little hot again, so I had changed into light white clothing. After staying up for 2 days, Zhao Huijin was still alive, but I could no longer hold on. When I woke up the next morning, I found myself lying beside him, yet I had no recollection of how I had gotten into the bed. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Zhao Huijin died. I settled his funeral affairs, moved out of the prince's mansion, and lived in a clean, quiet small courtyard, sunbathing and reading books. That sense of freedom, ease, and comfort made me wake up laughing from the dream. As I opened my eyes, I met Zhao Huijin's smiling gaze head-on. He was resting his head on his arm, and there was no sign of avoidance or anger at me for sleeping beside him. Instead, he smiled and asked, What dream were you having, my lady? That made you laugh so happily?" I froze for a moment, coughed awkwardly with a guilty conscience, and said, "I dreamed that your highness woke up, so I was happy. I never thought you'd really wake up. This is such a great joy." But he raised his eyebrows, his gaze falling on the morning gown I had just made. Draped over the back of a chair, I had nothing to do, so I made it at random. I pointed to the morning gown and explained, "It hasn't been dyed yet. I'll have it dyed peach pink tomorrow." Zhao Huijin suddenly laughed out loud. "You look beautiful in anything, my lady," he said. I made an excuse to fetch the physician, flusteredly got out of bed and left, and immediately ordered the morning items to be put away. When I returned to the room to wash up, it suddenly dawned on me he had not called me Jiang Yu, but my lady. Why did he call me that? Your Highness has escaped this disaster by a hair's breadth. He is blessed with boundless good fortune. My wet nurse was the happiest, because I would not have to be a widow after all. I looked at the more than a dozen morning gowns with a troubled expression. 6. It seemed Zhao Huijin had pulled through this ordeal. Even the imperial physician exclaimed in surprise that he was blessed by heaven, daring not to take any credit for himself. I could only silently tuck the morning gowns back at the bottom of the chest. Zhao Huijin was going to the palace to express his gratitude. He had looked quite well yesterday, but this morning, his complexion was pale again. "Can you walk?" I asked him. "I can hold on, though. I may have to trouble you to support me on the way, my lady," he said with a face full of apology. "It's fine, it's what I ought to do." I helped him onto the carriage and draped a blanket over him. The carriage jolted, and he swayed unsteadily. "If you don't mind, you can lean on my shoulder," I said with concern. "May I?" he asked. I nodded. He slowly rested his head on my right shoulder, and I looped my left arm around him to support him. "Are you tired, my lady?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not tired, it's only right." He let out a soft hum. Upon entering the palace, the emperor saw him and even personally called for the imperial physician to inquire about his condition. Prince Rui's mother came in with a fierce air, but when she saw Zhao Huijin clinging to his last breath, her anger deflated at once. Zhao Huijin was utterly innocent. This time, the emperor bestowed many rewards upon him. We met the crown prince on our way out of the palace. "I've troubled your highness with my affairs," Zhao Huijin said. "I don't blame the 10th prince either. He's been used to acting recklessly since he was a child." The crown prince waved his hand. "You're far too kind. That's why you've spoiled him into being lawless." Zhao Huijin smiled awkwardly. The crown prince looked at him, an expression of exasperation at his lack of resolve on his face, and shook his head as he left. I held Zhao Huijin's hand, half supporting him, and glanced back at the crown prince. The emperor had 16 sons, but only 5 survived to adulthood. The crown prince was the legitimate eldest son. Below him were the 3rd prince, Prince Jin, the 6th prince, Prince Ning, and the 9th and 10th princes, Prince Jin and Prince Rui. Prince Rui suspected that it was Prince Ning who had poisoned Zhao Huijin. The carriage mat was lined with thick cushions on the way back. Zhao Huijin insisted on not lying down, so I supported him and said, "It's rather uncomfortable with the jolting. You can rest your head on my lap too." "May I?" he asked. "It's fine, it's what I ought to do," I said. He was clearly truly exhausted and did not stand on ceremony. But when his head actually rested on my lap, the atmosphere in the carriage suddenly turned delicate. My mood grew complicated along with it. "My lady," he suddenly spoke. I answered and asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" He looked up at me, and I lowered my head to meet his gaze. "What do you like?" I paused. "Hobbies, colors, ornaments, food preferences." He listed many things. I had little demand for material possessions, and said casually, "I like light colors. I don't care much for ornaments and rarely wear them on ordinary days. As for food, I'm not picky." He kept looking at me as I spoke, listening very earnestly. His gaze when looking at people was extremely focused. If one fell into it, one would have the illusion that his eyes held only you. So I averted my gaze. "Light colors," he repeated, lost in thought. "I remember there are fabrics from the south of the Yangtze in the treasury. You'll surely like them." I did not stand on ceremony and thanked him. He had spoken casually. So I thought they were just ordinary fabrics after all. There had been no women in his mansion for more than a decade. But I was truly shocked when the things were delivered, 12 bolts of fabric, all kinds of light colors and all extremely precious, and headdresses from gold to jade. From intricate and gorgeous to fresh and elegant, filled an Ahat bed. I stared at him in astonishment. Cough, cough, a hint of a smile flashed in his eyes. I've kept them for a long time. Fortunately, you're here, so they can see the light of day again. I did not know whether to laugh or cry. I had thought Zhao Huijin was not well off, after all. He was unfavored and held no official post, and relying only on the mansion's properties, he should have only been able to make ends meet. Now it seemed his life was not at all straightened. Before going to bed, I rummaged through my dowry for a bolt of fabric for men, wanting to make him a long coat for autumn, so I carried the fabric to find him. Just as I walked out of the courtyard, I heard Eunuch Wang whispering and scolding someone through the wall. Go and make it clear none of the 12 bolts of fabric and headdresses her ladyship got this afternoon are to be sold in the shop any longer. If her ladyship finds out they were just bought, I'll break your bones. I got so busy I forgot. I'll go right now. Her ladyship never goes out. She'll never find out for sure. Eunuch Wang did not respond to that, paused, and then scolded again. Be more sharp-witted in your work. If I have to flog someone, yours will be the first to bloom. The young eunuch laughed and begged his master to calm down, and the two walked away, their voices fading into the distance. 7. I tried to understand why Zhao Huijin had bought me those things. Was it out of guilt? Surely it was. His health was poor, and he could not leave me with children. A kind man like him must have felt guilty towards me. But I wanted to tell him that he owed me nothing. Human affection is the most unpredictable thing. So, to give nothing is to have no disappointment, to ask for nothing is to have no need for guilt. Yet I still stood in the courtyard for a long time. I could not say why. After a long while, I let out a heavy sigh and went to find him anyway. I wonder if your highness likes this shade of blue. He had been lying down, but now he sat up, raised his eyebrows at the fabric, and asked, for me, I did not mention what I had just heard, pretending I knew nothing. If your highness does not mind, I want to make you a garment. Will you make it yourself? He asked. I nodded. My sewing skills were quite good in previous years. My wet nurse and I would take on work at a clothing shop to earn some silver to supplement our needs. I don't mind at all. He got out of bed and stood in front of me, his cheeks slightly flushed. Do you need to take my measurements? I froze for a moment. In truth, there was no need to take them myself. I could just ask the mansion's embroideress for them. Then wait a moment, I'll go back to get the soft ruler. He smiled. Thank you for your trouble. When I came back, he had taken off his outer robe and was staring absently at the fabric in a thin inner garment. He had a fine figure. Though thin, he did not look weak, but rather tall and stalwart. I averted my gaze and took his measurements. What are you thinking about, your highness? I paused and asked. Has autumn arrived? His tone was a little melancholy. I stood on tiptoe to measure his shoulders and replied casually, yes, the Mid-Autumn Festival hasn't arrived yet. But one can feel the coolness at night already. He hummed. No wonder I feel cold at night. Cold? I looked up at him. Shall I add another quilt for you? He shook his head. The quilt is already thick enough. Adding another will make it uncomfortable to lie under. He frowned and said helplessly, forget it then. I glanced at his bed. When I slept there a few days ago, I had not thought the quilt was thin. His health was poor, so his feelings must be different from mine. We have to solve the problem somehow. If you don't want to cover up more, then how about laying more cushions? I asked. I looped my arm around his waist, leaning close to check the numbers, and suddenly looked up, meeting his eyes. My heart skipped a beat. He looked at me and smiled softly. I thought his smile held a deeper meaning, so I stepped back a few steps. He seemed not to notice my reaction, and only asked lightly, how many days will it take to make the garment, my lady? It must have been my illusion, I replied. 3 days. Is that all right? He smiled and nodded. That's fine. Then I'll go back. You should rest early. I held the fabric and walked out the door. He saw me off to the gate. The moonlight was bright and clear, like a silver shawl spread down from the sky. Beautiful. He followed me out. It's cold outside. It's fine. I'll see you back to your courtyard and then come right back. I won't get sick." He walked slowly. The short path of a dozen steps took us 3 times as long as usual. When I reached my courtyard, I worried about him going back alone, so I had to see him off again. On my way back, I suddenly laughed. I thought this back and forth seeing each other off was rather childish, and I had only just realized it, belatedly. When the garment was finished, Zhao Huijin put it on at once. "It's a little hot today. Do you want to change into something thinner? I'm afraid of the cold." "This thickness is just right." He stroked the hem of the garment, standing in front of the mirror quite satisfied. "You have such skillful hands, my lady." I did not know how to reply for a moment. "What's wrong?" He bent slightly to meet my eyes at the same level. "Are you feeling unwell?" I shook my head, poured him a cup of tea, and changed the subject. "By the way, I heard the emperor received a sorcerer, who can tell fortunes and even refine immortality pills. His surname is Ma. They say he's a stranger from overseas. I haven't seen just how capable he is yet," he replied casually. "I thought sorcerers like this were rather dubious. The emperor was only 46 this year. Was he already going to start cultivating immortality and Taoism on the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival?" Zhao Huijin still wore the garment I had made for him. We went to the palace first. The crown prince was not there, and the emperor was talking with the third prince, Prince Jin, and Master Ma by his side. Prince Jin was a very suspicious man. One had to talk in circles with him. Did Prince Jin introduce Master Ma? I frowned on the way back. If so, he's being far too obvious about it. Did he have no regard for the crown prince at all? This matter was handled rather clumsily by Prince Jin. I had only asked casually, but Zhao Huijin was quite interested. "How so?" 8. My hand paused as I poured the tea, and I smiled and asked him, "May I speak freely?" He nodded. "It's just the two of us, of course." I smiled and said, "Actually, from my perspective, the best arrangement for Master Ma is actually related to you." He paused. "I think Master Ma is an old acquaintance of yours. You set a trap for him to meet Prince Jin, and then Prince Jin introduced him to the emperor. Prince Jin thus gains the emperor's favor, adding wings to a tiger, and fights the crown prince to a standstill, neither able to gain the upper hand." Zhao Huijin stopped drinking his tea and looked at me in some surprise. "When 2 tigers fight, one must be injured. No matter what the outcome is, it will be to your advantage." I finished speaking and looked at him with a smile. "Interesting." He stared at me deeply. "This advantage is indeed no small matter." I nodded. "Though, I know you have no energy for such things, nor any interest in court affairs. We're just chatting. Your Highness can take it as a joke. How did you come up with all this?" Instead of thinking I was talking nonsense, his eyes revealed undisguised admiration. I was a little surprised, and could not help but feel shy. "I don't understand anything about court affairs, it's just random thoughts." Zhao Huijin chuckled and shook his head. "You have quite the insight." I was stunned, and a strange feeling welled up in my heart, indescribable at first, but gradually growing clear. Prince Jin revels in the fight for the crown. Of course, now that things have come to this, even if he wanted to back down, his maternal clan and court forces would never let him. Zhao Huijin sipped his tea, his eyebrows and eyes slightly lowered, his tone faint and unfathomable. "You mean even if he was blatant about introducing Master Ma to the emperor, he is not afraid?" I pondered the meaning of his words. Prince Jin had enough power. He was not the least bit afraid of being found out. Zhao Huijin nodded slightly, his face soft with approval. "My lady is astute." I shook my head and laughed. "Your Highness keeps praising me. It makes me feel guilty." He smiled gently, then suddenly leaned close to me and whispered, "If I were to contend for the crown, would you be afraid, my lady?" I froze, my heart skipping a beat. For a moment, I thought his words were true. But then I thought we had been together almost every moment these past few months, never apart. When would he have had the time to plot for the crown? I let out a breath of relief and smiled. What is there to fear? Do it if you wish. To win is to stand above 10,000 men. To lose is but death. Zhao Huijin stared at me intently, then suddenly raised his hand and stroked my head, his voice soft. "My lady is truly a heroine among women." I was astonished, then laughed with him. After months of living together, Zhao Huijin and I got along in perfect harmony. We talked of everything, family trivialities, farmlands, and shops, the undercurrents of the court. I often thought, if only his health were good, living like this with him, though not as quiet and carefree as being a widow, would still be wonderful. In the court, things with Master Ma did not unfold exactly as I had imagined, but the direction of events was just as I predicted. The emperor has let General Qin take over military power in Morbei. Is he not Prince Jin's uncle? A few days later, during dinner, Eunuch Wang spoke of court affairs. He is, Eunuch Wang said indignantly. The emperor now spends all day with Master Ma studying the art of immortality cultivation. He dotes on Master Ma and Prince Jin to no end. I raised an eyebrow and looked at Zhao Huijin. Zhao Huijin ladled soup for me and smiled. Speak your mind, my lady, no need to hold back. Your Highness, if our household is to stay out of this entirely, we must remain strictly neutral, lest the victor settle scores with us in the future. I smiled. Our household. He raised an eyebrow, a tide of laughter rising in his eyes and crinkling their corners. I was confused. What was he so happy about? Very well, I'll listen to my lady, he smiled. That day, Zhao Huijin and I were playing chess in the mansion when the Crown Prince arrived uninvited. 9. The Crown Prince looked at our chessboard, his voice tinged with envy. Only you, ninth brother, have such leisure, spending an hour on a single game of chess. My princess consort's chess skills are on par with mine. This game has been a fierce stalemate for 2 hours already. Zhao Huijin acted as if he did not understand the Crown Prince's implication, asking innocently, "Does your Highness have a clever move to get me out of this predicament?" The Crown Prince waved his hand and smiled bitterly. "I have no such idle pleasures as you. Come with me. I have something to ask you." The Crown Prince signaled for Zhao Huijin to follow him to another place to talk. "But look, this chess game." Zhao Huijin looked troubled, reluctant to leave. "Why not speak here? My princess consort is no outsider." The Crown Prince frowned tightly, glanced at me, and seeing I had no intention of leaving, he had to sit down and get straight to the point. "I see your health has been getting better lately, so, it's all thanks to my princess consort's care." Zhao Huijin cut him off mid-sentence, praising me without a second thought. I of course took the hint and smiled. "Your Highness flatters me. I have only done my duty." The Crown Prince's frown deepened. "It has been snowing in Morbei for 10 consecutive days. A snow disaster is imminent. Ninth brother, this is a great matter. I do not trust anyone else. You must go there." Zhao Huijin pointed to the move I had just made. "My lady, I wish to take back this move." He reached out to pick up a chess piece. I slapped his hand away. "Your Highness, there is no taking back moves in chess. Put it back at once. Just one move," he said. "Not even one move," I retorted. Very well, very well. I'll listen to my lady." He put the piece back helplessly, then looked up at the Crown Prince. "What did your Highness say just now?" The Crown Prince shot to his feet in anger. "Look at you. In the past, when your health was poor, of course you had to rest. But now that you are better, you still have no ambition whatsoever. Everyone says you married a good princess consort, that she has made you well again. But in my eyes, this princess consort of yours ought to be divorced. Ninth brother, beauty is a disaster that leads one astray." I raised an eyebrow. Did others really think I had ensnared Zhao Huijin with my looks? It was a novel perspective, one I had never heard before. I did not mind the words, but Zhao Huijin's face darkened. He said coldly, "If your Highness has no other business, you may leave. My health is poor, so I will not see you off. You." The Crown Prince, seemingly having held in his anger for a long time, pointed furiously at him, then at me. "You foolish, dull woman." Zhao Huijin suddenly swept the chessboard off the table and said in a cold voice, "Guards, see the Crown Prince out." 10. The Crown Prince had probably never seen Zhao Huijin lose his temper before, and was clearly shocked. After the Crown Prince left, Zhao Huijin sat in silence, twisting a chess piece between his fingers, not speaking for a long time, yet an aura of sharpness I had never seen before emanated from him. I called to him tentatively, "Your Highness." The sharpness around him dissipated in an instant. He looked up at me. "Pay no mind to those groundless words, my lady." I did not mind. But his reaction had caught me completely off guard. Was he angry because the crown prince had called me foolish and dull? I was a little surprised, unable to fathom his thoughts. But just now, that vague feeling I had had before grew clear once more. I thought of how the emperor had fathered 12 sons, yet only 5 had survived. One could imagine how brutal the harem struggles had been back then, and of these 5 survivors, the crown prince was the empress's son. The mothers and maternal clans of the other 3 princes all wielded immense power in the harem and court. Only Zhao Huijin, he had no mother to aid him, no maternal clan to support him, surrounded by wolves in the harem, danger lurking everywhere. Zhao Huijin's survival to this day was truly remarkable. I slowly picked up the chess pieces. Sorting through my thoughts bit by bit, the crown prince did not come back after that outburst. But Prince Jin paid a visit, and their meeting was just as unpleasant, with Prince Jin storming off in a rage. As the 2 tigers fought, Prince Jin, who had never meddled in court affairs, had unexpectedly become the focus of their fight for support. It seemed this struggle would soon have a winner and a loser. Another 7 or 8 days passed, and Zhao Huijin suddenly asked me, "Father is going on the winter hunt in Nanshan in a few days. Would you like to go and watch?" At his words, I looked up at him, studying his expression, then nodded. "It must be quite interesting." "Then I'll go and watch." "Very well," he said. But on the eve of our departure, Zhao Huijin's illness took a turn for the worse. He coughed for several nights, and his medicine dosage was increased. Eunuch Wang insisted that I be the one to deliver his bedtime medicine. I still had a lot of work to do, and hesitated. Could my wet nurse deliver it instead? It was just delivering medicine. It should not matter, right? That will not do. The old lady is advanced in years, her hands and feet are unsteady. What a pity it would be if she spilled it. Eunuch Wang said to me in all seriousness, "Every ingredient in this medicine is extremely precious. It is only fitting for your ladyship to deliver it." I could not believe his words. If my wet nurse was not suitable, I had young maids in my courtyard. Was it really only me who could deliver the medicine? Besides, have you forgotten the poisoning incident in the medicine last time? Eunuch Wang said. "Enough, I'll deliver it." I sighed, thinking to myself that he had been lingering here pestering me for so long. He was clearly free. If he had gone to deliver it himself, he could have made it to the imperial palace and back by now, let alone just the study. I knocked on the door. Zhao Huijin was sitting at his desk carving a seal. When he saw me, he smiled. "Why are you here?" I had no wish to come, but I could not stand Eunuch Wang's scare tactics. "Your medicine is here, Your Highness. Will you drink it while it's hot?" he hummed in response, not lifting his head. "My hands are dirty. Just set it aside for now." I frowned. "The dust from your carving is flying all over this desk. It will get into the medicine and dirty it." He looked at me in a dilemma. I asked hesitantly, "Shall you go wash your hands then?" He shook his head. "This seal cannot touch moisture until it is finished." Why could a stone not touch moisture? I did not understand, and did not dare to speak recklessly. "Then, shall I feed you?" Surely he would not really make me feed him, would he? "Then, I'll trouble you." He turned to face me, his eyes brimming with anticipation. I froze, utterly astonished in my heart. I could not help but feel that Zhao Huijin was slowly changing, becoming somewhat strange. I brought a spoonful of medicine to his lips, and he drank it obediently, smiling at me. "Is the medicine sweet?" I asked. He was smiling so happily. "It is sweet." His eyes crinkled slightly at the corners, clearly overjoyed. I did not understand. How could drinking medicine make someone so happy? "Drink your medicine and rest early, Your Highness," he replied reluctantly, pointing to the seal with his mouth still full of medicine. "Does my lady like this chicken bloodstone?" I glanced at it, feeling nothing in particular, but played along. "I do like it." He brightened up even more. When I put down the bowl and prepared to leave, he patted the chair beside him. "Sit here, my lady. Hand me things when I need them. I'm too busy to spare a hand." I still had a mountain of work to finish. All the things he needed were right by his hand. How could he be too busy to spare a hand? "Oh." I sat down beside him, lost in a daze. Everything Zhao Huijin did was done with effortless grace. A feast for the eyes. He was still the gentle, upright gentleman he had always been. But this gentleman sure had a lot to say. Since when had this started? I had never noticed it before, only feeling it deeply today. 11. The winter hunt was an annual event, but it was Zhao Huijin's first time attending. The Nanshan hunting ground was not far. After a day's journey, we arrived in the evening. The temporary palace was not large, and when we arrived, I was faced with a dilemma. The courtyard assigned to us was tiny, with only one proper bedroom. I would sleep on the daybed. That night, the temporary palace was bustling with activity. We accompanied the emperor for dinner and watched song and dance performances. Returning to our courtyard near the hour of the pig, Zhao Huijin huddled under the quilt and sneezed twice in quick succession. "Are you cold, Your Highness?" I sat up and looked at him. "Aren't you cold, my lady?" He frowned, clearly freezing. I wanted to say I was not, but knowing Zhao Huijin as I did, I knew he had more to say. "Sure enough," he said, "if you don't mind, my lady, we can pile our two quilts together. It might be warmer that way." Cough cough. "I'm afraid a night in the cold will make my illness worse tomorrow." I rubbed my brows instinctively and carried my quilt over. Zhao Huijin was getting stranger and stranger. We lay side by side, the person next to me warm against my skin. The night was thick and impenetrable, filled only with the soft, shallow sound of his breathing close at hand. I turned over, my back to him. "Do you feel warmer, my lady?" he asked gently. I had never felt cold at all, I countered. "What about you, Your Highness?" "Much warmer," he whispered. "Thank goodness you're here." I rubbed my brows again. "Your Highness," I could not hold back, turning to look at him. "Do you wish for me to bear you an heir now?" We had been married for 5 months, and my original intention had not changed. If he agreed, I was willing to have a child for him. He stared at me intently, his gaze soft and slow, tracing every inch of my face. After a long while, he coughed twice. "If I can hold on until next summer, will you discuss this matter with me then?" Next summer. That was still 7 months away. I nodded and agreed, but if he did not want me to bear him an heir, why was he acting so strange? "Sleep." He patted my back. I froze, only to realize his hand had slipped out from under the quilt at some point, curving around me to pull me into his arms. "It's warmer like this," he said flatly, closing his eyes. "Sleep, my lady. We have to get up early tomorrow." I frowned and closed my eyes to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I was still in his arms. By the time I finished washing, he was already awake, looking at me and smiling. "When did you wake up, my lady? Did you sleep well?" "I slept fine. What about you, Your Highness? Were you unaccustomed?" I asked. "Not at all. I slept very deeply," he said. I looked at his slightly dark under eyes and raised an eyebrow. 12. In the morning, everyone moved to the hunting ground. All the princes and dukes of the imperial family were gathered together. At the sound of a gong, the crown prince and Prince Jin each led a team, charging into the hunting ground separately. I sipped tea in the tent. Zhao Huijin was in a good mood, roasting chestnuts for me. I had just eaten one chestnut when someone suddenly called for him outside. The tent flap was lifted a moment later, and an extremely bright and beautiful woman walked in. She was about 17 or 18, wearing a bright red riding skirt and trousers, her hair coiled high on her head, a horsewhip in her hand. She moved like a brilliant flower in full bloom. Ninth brother. She twirled the whip in her hand, sitting down opposite us in a bold, unrestrained manner, raising her eyebrows and speaking with animated enthusiasm, full of life. "I'm back again." Zhao Huijin looked at her and smiled softly. The woman dragged her stool to sit beside Zhao Huijin, looping her arm through his. "It's such a good thing you didn't die. I brought you a 1,000-year-old ginseng back this time. The doctor said it's the best for you." Zhao Huijin gently pushed her hand away without a trace of awkwardness, then turned to introduce her to me. "My lady, this is Princess Chang'e of the Huainan Prince's mansion." So this was Song Xiaoxiao. Prince Huainan had rendered meritorious service to Emperor Dizong and been infeft with a title. This was the 3rd generation to hold it. Song Xiaoxiao had grown up in the capital and was familiar with several princes. There had even been jokes before that she might one day become Princess Rui or Princess Ning. I had never heard that she was close to Zhao Huijin. After the introduction, Song Xiaoxiao sized me up, raising her bold, delicate eyebrows. "It's you." She seemed to remember something. pointing at me and asking Zhao Huijin, "Isn't this the woman who scolded the abbot at Fahua Temple that day?" Zhao Huijin said in a low voice, "No, you're mistaken." I was a little surprised. I had indeed scolded someone at Fahua Temple. After the Lantern Festival this year, I had gone to pay for the oil lamp for my mother, only to find someone had put it out. I had been furious then, pointing at the abbot and scolding him for a long time. In the end, the abbot apologized to me, but I did not relight the lamp. Could there have been someone else in the temple that day? I'm mistaken. Song Xiaoxiao was not sure either. She dropped the subject, reaching for Zhao Huijin's arm again. "Ninth brother, let's go hunting, shall we? I'm not skilled at riding and archery." Zhao Huijin stood up, pouring her a cup of tea and handing it to her to hold. I wanted to laugh, so I bowed my head and ate another chestnut. "I'm skilled, you can sit in front of me." Song Xiaoxiao tried to take Zhao Huijin's hand, but had to give up as she was holding the teacup. "My archery skills have improved again. Come watch me shoot." Zhao Huijin looked at me. 13. "The princess is so kind to invite you." "Your Highness, go ahead," I smiled softly. Zhao Huijin suddenly leaned over and whispered in my ear, "The wind is strong today, and I'm ill. How can you let me go?" I looked at him, and he nodded earnestly at me. I burst out laughing. In that moment, he looked like a child, unwilling to go out and making me refuse for him. I had no choice but to say to Song Xiaoxiao, "Thank you for your kind invitation. Princess, my husband is ill and should not be in the wind. Can we do this another day?" Song Xiaoxiao stared at Zhao Huijin in astonishment. "Ninth brother, you." I listened to my lady. Zhao Huijin smiled. He actually seemed to enjoy being controlled by me. "Ninth brother, you've changed since you got married." Song Xiaoxiao frowned. "You weren't like this before." Zhao Huijin looked as if he did not understand the implication of her words, even going so far as to impart experience to Song Xiaoxiao. "You should get married soon too. You'll change after marriage." Song Xiaoxiao looked at me, then at Zhao Huijin, set down her teacup and left. I bit into a chestnut, looking at Zhao Huijin with a half-smile. "Why go to such trouble, Your Highness? Riding and archery are boring." Zhao Huijin said casually, "It's much more comfortable to stay here with my lady, warming ourselves by the fire." I smiled, tilting my head to look at him. He poked at the charcoal fire, his voice as if coming from far away, faint and ethereal with a tinge of loss. "It's just that you agreed so readily, my lady." "Why should I not have agreed? I see. I'll know how to act from now on," I said. He stared at me deeply and sighed. He seemed unhappy again for some reason. "Your Highness." Eunuch Wang came in, his voice lowered. "Two men are missing from the Crown Prince's team. The Emperor has ordered you to take their place." I froze, surprised. "Let Your Highness go." Eunuch Wang nodded solemnly. "It's the Emperor's edict, I'll go." Zhao Huijin handed me a warm chestnut. "Do not worry, my lady, I'll be back soon." I was still worried. He had said he was not good at riding and archery. That vast forest, covered in thick snow, danger lurked everywhere. "Are you worried about me, my lady?" he suddenly asked. Of course I was worried about him. The question was absurd. He laughed. "Then take more men with you," I urged. He nodded, glancing back at me before walking out of the tent. 14. Zhao Huijin had left at the hour of the dragon, and 3 hours had passed since then. The sky was gradually darkening. The sound of horse hooves came from outside. Prince Jin and his men were back. "Has the Crown Prince or Your Highness returned yet?" I asked Eunuch Wang. "Have you sent someone to look for them?" Eunuch Wang looked at the sky, his voice low. "We've sent men. It looks like there'll be a heavy snowstorm soon." Half an hour later, they still had not returned, but the snow was falling harder and harder. It blotted out the view, the heaven and earth covered as if by a thick curtain. The men who had gone to search came back once, then left again with more people. Song Xiaoxiao came by, accusing me. "Why didn't you stop him?" "The Emperor's edict is hard to defy," I replied. If something happens to him, you'll be a widow for the rest of your life." Song Xiaoxiao stamped her foot. "I'm going to look for him. Are you coming?" I shook my head. There was no use in my going. If I got lost in the forest, I would only add to the trouble. But regret gnawed at my heart all the same. I should have stopped him earlier. The Emperor was strange too. Why would he let Zhao Huijin go? Could it be that the emperor was also taking this opportunity to make the brothers get along, letting Zhao Huijin help the crown prince suppress Prince Jin? It was absurd. He's good to you for nothing. Song Xiaoxiao flicked her horsewhip and rode into the forest in a rage. An hour later, she was carried back. Covered in blood, she had encountered a bear in the forest. Slapped hard on the back, her flesh and blood were said to be mangled. If she had not been found by a search party, she would not have survived. I stood outside the tent with an umbrella. The dark forest was completely silent. It was so cold that even just standing still, doing nothing, was an ordeal. Time ticked by, and they still had not been found. The crown prince's mansion sent out many men, and even Prince Jin led his men into the forest again. The emperor flew into a rage, saying he would deploy troops to search. Do we have any men we can send? I asked Eunuch Wang. No, your ladyship, are you going? Eunuch Wang asked. Forget it, I frowned. I'll just wait here. Eunuch Wang nodded, disappointed. That night, I huddled by the stove. In the second half of the night, I had a dream. In the dream, I found Zhao Huijin in the snow, his body covered in blood, smiling and apologizing to me. The scene shifted, and I was a widow again, still sitting in that quiet courtyard, but this time, there was no sun, only endless falling snow. I woke up when the sky was already bright. My heart was filled with growing unease. Eunuch Wang stumbled in, wrapped in a cold wind. I stood up. Have they been found? He nodded, his face extremely dark. What's wrong? I held onto the back of a chair. Eunuch Wang said in a low voice, the crown prince is dead. A buzzing sound filled my head. What about your highness? His highness was carried back, clinging to his last breath. Eunuch Wang cried. The imperial physicians are attending to him. I ran to the next tent. It was filled with imperial physicians. The emperor, like an aged lion, paced restlessly. His hair, still jet black yesterday, was now streaked with white. They were doing their utmost to save Zhao Huijin. The crown prince was dead. Of the 19 men who had gone in with the crown prince, all were dead except Zhao Huijin. How is he? The emperor roared. The director of the Imperial Medical Academy fell to his knees with a thud, his voice trembling. His Highness's body has always been frail. Now he has 2 sword wounds and was frozen all night. I'm afraid he faces a great trial ahead. My heart sank at once. The next day, the imperial carriage returned to the capital, accompanied by the crown prince's body and the unconscious Prince Jin. An investigation was launched into who had ordered the assassinations of the crown prince and Prince Jin. I paid no heed to it all. Imperial physicians came and went every day, and I moved all my work into his room. No matter the outcome, I would guard the prince's mansion well for him. The home must not fall into chaos. Your ladyship, Eunuch Wang said in a low voice, Master Jiang has arrived. Father, I went to meet him. His face was filled with anxiety, yet he maintained his composure and dignity. By father's side, Song Yuanjing, dressed in official robes, stared fixedly at me. Father asked after Zhao Huijin's condition, and I told him the truth. I have come today with a task for you. Father signaled for Song Yuanjing to go outside and stand guard. I replied indifferently. Father got straight to the point. Do you know that with the crown prince's death, the court situation has been turned upside down? I said nothing, knowing he did not need an answer from me. Now many suspect Prince Jin of killing the crown prince, Father whispered, but he did not do it. I looked at Father in confusion and asked, so what? There is a task for you to complete. Once it is done, I will personally send you to the south of the Yangtze River myself. Your maternal grandmother's family moved there long ago. With your grandmother and uncle to protect you, you will surely live a more comfortable life there than in the capital. So my maternal family had moved to the south of the Yangtze. He had refused to utter a single word about it for all these years. I still remembered when I was 5 or 6, I had met my uncle. He had held me and cried for a long time, before he left. He secretly gave me a 500-tael banknote, telling me to sew it into my clothes. That money had let my wet nurse and me survive year after year, without starving to death. If there was anyone else in this world I cared about, it was only my grandmother and uncle. What do you want me to do, Father? I asked. Take this. He handed me a letter. Deliver it to the emperor in the palace. Say you found it in the prince's study, and begged the emperor to uphold justice for him. I did not need to open the letter to know what was written inside. It was almost certainly a forgery of Prince Ning's handwriting, a letter to Zhao Huijin plotting to murder the crown prince during the winter hunt. In short, he wanted me to use this letter to accuse Prince Ning of being the killer. So father supports Prince Jin. I paused. You used to favor the crown prince. Father cut me off. The crown prince is gone. One must adapt to changing circumstances. What a fine excuse for adaptability. I will think about it and give you my answer tomorrow, I said in a low voice. Father's face tightened. Your uncle has been stripped of his official position for 20 years. If you help Prince Jin, he can restore your uncle to his post. But if you are stubborn, no one will be able to help you. Father wore a solemn, earnest expression. 15. Father left, and Song Yuanjing stepped back a few paces. He sighed and whispered, Cousin Yu, listen to your uncle-in-law. He will not harm you. Once you reach the south of the Yangtze, you will have me. I raised my hand to cut him off and showed him the door. He hurried to say, the prince's life hangs in the balance these days. You must plan ahead and prepare for the worst. A wise bird chooses its tree to roost in. You are a smart person, you understand. Yes, Song Yuanjing knew I had long wanted to find my uncle. I waved my hand, motioning for him to leave. I knew what I was facing. If Zhao Huijin did not pull through, the crown prince's death would become an unsolved case. No matter how much the crown prince's faction made trouble, without clear evidence, the emperor would not bear to kill another son. The final outcome would surely be a struggle between Prince Jin and Prince Ning. Prince Ning might have ability, but he would never be able to defeat Prince Jin, and if I refused to help Prince Jin, once Zhao Huijin was gone, he would surely settle scores with me. If I presented this letter and helped Prince Jin bring down Prince Ning, I could live the life I had dreamed of. I returned to the room. Zhao Huijin was still unconscious. I took out the mourning gowns again and continued sewing the sleeve I had left unfinished last time. Eunuch Wang stood by, glancing at me from time to time. The night passed in silence. The next day, the emperor summoned me to the palace. The empress had grown thin, her former grace gone. Her eyes burned as she looked at me and asked, Some say you have a letter in your possession. Everyone in the room stared at me. The emperor, the empress, Prince Jin, Prince Ning, and many foreign ministers I did not know. I knew that as long as I took out this letter, Prince Ning would die. As for Zhao Huijin, he was going to die anyway. Whether he was guilty as an accomplice or innocently implicated, it would make no difference to him. I looked at these people with their varied expressions and said coldly, What letter? I have no letter. As soon as I spoke, I saw Prince Ning's leg give way, and he nearly fell to his knees. Prince Jin's eyes bulged with rage. Barely contained, the emperor frowned, and the empress's expression was extremely intriguing as she stared at me deeply. When I returned to the mansion, Eunuch Wang greeted me, his face brimming with undisguised joy. Your ladyship is back. Are you hungry? Cold? I am neither hungry nor cold. Close the mansion gates. From now on, no one except the imperial physicians is allowed to enter. I said, Yes, yes. Eunuch Wang replied repeatedly. I looked at the comatose Zhao Huijin and sighed deeply. Since when had I stopped looking forward to life as a widow? When the dream I had clung to for more than 10 years was within reach, I did not feel the slightest stir of desire. That night, I rested leaning on the daybed, when I suddenly felt someone watching me. I jolted awake and met Zhao Huijin's familiar eyes. My lady. He lifted a corner of the quilt and patted it. I'm cold. Sleep with me. At the sound of his voice, my nose stung with acidity. I hurried to sit up and trim the lamp wick, dispelling the sadness in the process. Your Highness, should we send for the imperial physician? I asked with a smile. He pressed his lips together and smiled, whispering, With my lady here, I need no one else. He was the patient, so his word was final. I climbed into his quilt. He lay on his side and looked at me, his eyebrows and eyes filled with unbridled joy. Is your Highness happy to have escaped death by a hair's breadth? I asked. No, he said softly. I am happy that when I woke up, there was a lamp by the bed and you in the room. I was lost for words. You have worked hard these days. He raised his hand and tucked the quilt around me. his gaze falling on the morning gowns I had finished and folded. It was not hard, not having to wear these gowns makes it all worthwhile. I thought these gowns really could be dyed now. After all, Zhao Huijin was blessed with great fortune and longevity. He only looked at me, smiling gently. His eyes as soft as the moonlight outside the window. I actually had many questions to ask him, such as what really happened that night during the hunt, what I needed to watch out for when going to the palace tomorrow, but for some reason, I fell asleep. Perhaps his gaze was too gentle, or perhaps the quilt was too warm. Sleep, he patted me lightly. It was the last sound I heard by my ear. I slept deeply all night, without a single dream. 16. Zhao Huijin went to the palace early in the morning. And this time he did not ask me to accompany him. I did not know what he said, but the case of the Crown Prince's murder became an unsolved mystery. What surprised me even more was that the Empress actually hugged Zhao Huijin and cried. After all, for the past 20 years, the Empress had never shown the slightest affection to Zhao Huijin. After lunch, Zhao Huijin returned in a sedan chair, bringing back many rewards and precious medicinal herbs. Once the door was closed, I asked him, "Now that the Empress has lost the Crown Prince, does she intend to groom you as her heir?" If he really wanted to contend for the crown, aligning with the Empress's faction would certainly mean a greater chance of success, but it would leave endless troubles for the future. Most importantly, I did not think this was the best time. Prince Jin and Prince Ning should be allowed to fight it out first. Moreover, there was still Prince Rui, lying in wait far away in his fief. Zhao Huijin set down his teacup and turned to look at me. "That is her wish, nothing to do with me. My health is poor. I only want to stay at home and accompany my lady more," he said with sincere eyes. I pointed to the gowns I had dyed that morning. "Does your highness like these colors?" I had dyed all the morning gowns in a variety of hues, and they were hanging in the courtyard to dry, bright, colorful, and full of life. Zhao Huijin's expression gradually turned to astonishment, then burst into loud laughter. "They are beautiful, it just means my lady wasted a lot of effort on them. Thank you, your highness, for bestowing these beautiful gowns upon me," I said with a straight face, struggling to hold back my laughter. Zhao Huijin laughed even more heartily. In the afternoon, father came to see me, but I refused to meet him. The next day, a letter arrived from the family saying that Lady Jiang was ill and asking me to come back. The prince is also ill. I cannot leave his side. I took 2 gin of sweet Osmanthus cake I had bought on the street and gave it to the steward. "Please give my regards to Lady Jiang for me." The steward's face changed several colors in an instant, and he left dejectedly. Zhao Huijin took my hand and warmed it in his. "Why will you not go back, my lady?" "It is not worth it," I said indifferently. Zhao Huijin was stunned, and asked in my ear, "Does that mean I am worth it?" I shot him a glance. He would not let me bear him an heir, yet he had gradually become warm and considerate towards me. I could not quite understand his intentions. Could it be that his health was really that bad? But I decided I would not ask the question of having an heir a third time. "Does my lady want to go to the south of the Yangtze during dinner?" Zhao Huijin suddenly brought up the question. I stared at him in astonishment. "I know your maternal grandmother's family is there," Zhao Huijin said solemnly. "If you want to go, I will accompany you." I did not ask how he knew I wanted to find my uncle. I only gripped my chopsticks and asked him earnestly, "Is your highness joking?" I would never joke about matters concerning my lady. I pressed my lips together and nodded. "I want to go." He ruffled my hair and said softly, "Very well. Then we will go to the south of the Yangtze, and let this ugly wife meet her in-laws." I rolled my eyes at him. In the 3rd lunar month, Prince Ning and Prince Jin fought fiercely in the court, locked in a stalemate. With the support of the Empress's faction, Prince Ning pushed Prince Jin to the brink several times. While they were mired in bitter strife, Zhao Huijin and I traveled leisurely to the south of the Yangtze. Spring in the south of the Yangtze was exquisitely beautiful. The boat glided slowly along the river, with green grass and dense shade lining both banks utterly different from spring in the north. In early April, I met my grandmother and my uncle. Naturally, we cried together. My grandmother led me to her room and gave me the dowry she had prepared for me. "I started preparing this for you when you were a child. I never thought you'd marry so hastily." I didn't even have time to send these things to you. I can see the prince treats you extremely well. Live your own life well with him, and don't worry about us." I choked up and agreed. My uncle and several cousins all held Zhao Huijin in high esteem. We traveled to many places, and those months were the most carefree and happy of my life. We set off back to the capital in the 10th lunar month. On the way back, I had nothing to do and cut out cloth for Zhao Huijin's new clothes. "Rest for a while. I have more than enough clothes to wear. Your Highness has shown me great kindness, and I have no other way to repay it but to do what little I can," I said, smiling without pausing my hands. He sighed, and unexpectedly set out paper and ink stones to paint a portrait of me. "I too have no way to repay my lady's great kindness, so I shall paint a portrait for you." But the painting he made was of us boating together, leaning against each other as we looked at the scenery, our backs ethereal and light, brimming with tender love. Days slipped by in such quiet leisure, so fast that it took me by surprise. Winter had arrived before I knew it, and snow began to fall outside. We received news as we neared the capital. "Prince Ning has been seriously injured. His life hangs in the balance," Eunuch Wang said. "Word on the street is that Prince Rui sent men to attack him." I leaned on the window in high spirits, watching snowflakes fall on the water's surface. At his words, I paused, picked up a pebble by the window, and tossed it into the river. Ripples spread gently across the calm water. 17. Prince Jin's era of sole dominance had officially begun. Song Yuanjing married my second sister, and instead of being posted to the south of the Yangtze, he remained in the capital as a fourth-rank official. Given his age and seniority, this was undoubtedly a brilliant career move. My father was promoted to Grand Secretary and granted the title of Crown Prince's tutor. Before I knew it, rumors spread through the capital that Zhao Huijin was incapable of fathering children. That was why, after a year and a half of marriage, we had no heirs. The rumors grew more and more intense, yet the Prince Jin mansion remained perfectly calm. Hearing I had returned, my second sister came to the mansion in person to see me. She brought 2 jin of sweet Osmanthus cake, toured the mansion with a faint smile on her lips. "So even the prince's mansion is this shabby?" My second sister peeked into the inner chamber and exclaimed in surprise, "This dressing table is broken. Why do you still use it?" I kept a straight face. "I'm used to it. Are you going to give me a new one?" My second sister's face stiffened. She took a sip of tea and changed the subject. "This fabric of yours is from last year too. Didn't you go to the south of the Yangtze? Why didn't you buy a boatload and ship it back?" I was too busy being lovey-dovey with the prince to think about such worldly possessions. I set down my teacup and showed her the door, not glancing at her again. My second sister giggled, patting her abdomen. "Oh, I forgot to tell you, sister, I'm 3 months pregnant. You need to try harder too." With those words, my second sister swaggered off, surrounded by her maids and matrons, brimming with pride. The new year drew near in the blink of an eye, and Zhao Huijin suddenly grew busy. Leaving early in the morning and returning late at night, I did not ask what he was busy with, for I was busy too. On New Year's Eve, a family feast was held in the palace. At the table, Prince Jin was in high spirits, but the emperor had aged a great deal, his eyes dull and listless with sickness. I heard the emperor had devoted himself utterly to cultivating immortality this year, indulging in elixirs day and night. After the feast, Zhao Huijin and I walked back to the mansion. As soon as we arrived, a group of imperial guards suddenly came from behind, shoving us and shouting, "By the emperor's order, the Prince Jin mansion is placed under imperial guard control for the time being. No one may enter or leave without a palace edict." I looked at Zhao Huijin. We had just shared a warm father-son meal moments ago. How had we ended up under house arrest in the blink of an eye? "Your Highness, has something happened to the emperor?" I thought the emperor had no reason to do this. The only one who could was Prince Jin, so something must have happened to the emperor after we left the palace. "It's fine. Don't be afraid." Zhao Huijin held my hand and smiled. "Whoever it is, we just need to obey." I frowned and said nothing. It was destined to be a bloody night. I could not sleep, but Zhao Huijin slept soundly. Before dawn, I sent for someone to inquire. "The emperor fainted last night." "Only the empress and Prince Jin were with him," Eunuch Wang whispered. We still don't know if he's alive or dead. Dawn is breaking, we'll find out soon enough. Snow began to fall from the sky. New Year's Day, a day that should have been filled with family reunion and joy across the land, was shrouded in deathly silence this year. Listen, I pointed to the sky and stood up. The death knell, the emperor has passed away. What I cared more about was who had won. I'm going to take a look, Zhao Huijin instructed me. Stay in the mansion, don't see anyone who comes, and don't go out either. My heart skipped a beat, and I agreed solemnly. 18. I waited in the mansion for a whole day and night. That night, a fire broke out in the palace, the flames shooting up to the sky. I called for Eunuch Wang. Is the prince alone in the palace? Does anyone have his back? Eunuch Wang shook his head. Gather the household servants. We're going to the palace. I took a dagger from the drawer and tucked it into my sleeve. Eunuch Wang's eyes glowed bright red as he scurried after me. Your ladyship, do you really intend to go to the palace? It's extremely dangerous inside. Death is nothing. If I fear it, I'm no longer human. I lifted my foot and stepped outside. Truth be told, I was scared. Reason told me my going would be useless. But I went anyway. I had to see for myself, even if we were to die. We had to see each other one last time. Your ladyship, your ladyship. Eunuch Wang's steps were light and quick. If you're really going, this servant will go with you. I stopped and looked at him, confused by his elation. Eunuch Wang froze, awkwardly wiping the smile from his face, slowly hardening his features and saying in a deep voice, "The palace is dangerous. This servant will accompany you." Leaving the mansion was smoother than I had thought, looking from the street toward the palace. Towering flames and billowing smoke filled the sky, and the sounds of shouting and killing rang out on all sides. My heart rose to my throat. At the palace gate, I ran into my father and Song Yuanjing. My father shot me a cold glance. Song Yuanjing blocked my way. "Don't go in, it's dangerous inside. Besides, you and Prince Jin have bad blood, he'll likely kill you in the chaos. This is my business, I don't need your concern." I pushed Song Yuanjing aside. Behind me, my father seemingly chewed Song Yuanjing out, but he was really speaking to me. "Don't waste words on a fool, let her go to her death. She has no sense at all." Song Yuanjing chased after me, whispering, "We don't even know if the prince is alive or dead. Don't go." I did not look at him, and followed Eunuch Wang into the palace. Inside the inner palace, people ran to and fro, shouting and clashing, but there was no sign of Zhao Huijin, until I turned a corner, and suddenly saw a figure standing in the shadows. He held a sword, his back to the flames, though I could not see his face. The blood dripping from his sword blade was crystal clear. The blood fell to the ground, winding along the cracks in the stone slabs like countless thin streams. I froze where I stood. The man turned around and saw me too. The murderous look on his face, the cold ruthlessness in his eyes, had no time to fade. Our eyes met, and he froze too, but the next moment, he clattered the sword to the ground and shouted, "My lady, what are you doing here?" His voice was still warm and elegant, and his steps toward me were as calm and steady as ever. This was Zhao Huijin, a Zhao Huijin I had never seen before. Was I surprised? Both surprised and not. How could a prince who had grown up alone in the inner palace be truly weak and helpless? "You killed the crown prince?" I asked in a low voice. He nodded. "I never intended to act so soon." "But he called you foolish and dull, and I was displeased." Zhao Huijin shook my hand, like a spoiled child. "I didn't mean to hide it from you. I only feared that if I regained my health, my lady would truly care nothing for me. I did not know whether to laugh or cry. When have I ever cared nothing for you? My lady's heart was not in it. You only saw me as your master and yourself as the steward." He muttered in a low voice, rather petulantly, "What I want is your true heart." So he had heard my conversation with my wet nurse last year, and had kept it in his heart. I had seen him as my master. Marriage was, after all, like that. He was the prince and I was the princess consort. He held everything I had in his hands. The only thing I could control was my own state of mind. Only by knowing my place could I live in peace. But people's hearts always change, mine too. "We'll talk later. Hurry and finish your great matter." He bent down and hugged me, nuzzling my ear. "My great matter, in truth, is you. Very well, I want to be empress. Hurry and pave the way for me." He stared at me intently, then held me in his arms again, his voice soft. Thank you. 19. Zhao Huijin reeled in the net he had been weaving for 7 years. I was astonished, and could not help but admire his strategic prowess. Looking through ancient books, there was not a single emperor who had killed his brother to seize the crown, yet was sincerely praised by all civil and military officials, who knelt and begged him to take the imperial seal and ascend the throne. Even the remaining faction of the late crown prince was still desperately wiping out Prince Jin's remaining forces. Unaware that all of this was Zhao Huijin's plan, he had set his sights on the throne a long time ago, moving forward with unwavering resolve, step by step. On the 16th day of the first lunar month, Zhao Huijin ascended the throne. Proclaiming the reign title Shunkang, on the 18th day of the first lunar month, he named me empress. As the courtiers paid homage, I stood at the foot of the high stone steps, looking down at all the officials. My father, his hair white, huddled his back, kneeling in trepidation. Song Yuanjing looked up at me for a moment, his face filled with fear, then hastily bowed his head. Zhao Huijin was swamped with work, and I was not idle either. The Jiang mansion sent 7 or 8 memorials begging for an audience in the palace. On this day, I finally had a moment of leisure and agreed to see them. Lady Jiang led my younger sisters into the palace, crying and laughing as they congratulated me. Your Majesty was born to be empress. A fortune-teller said so when you were a child. Your nobility is unparalleled. Lady Jiang smiled, whether it was genuine or feigned. Her kneeling at this moment was utterly real, unfortunately. I have no heirs yet, I smiled, looking at my second sister's still flat abdomen. Is Lady Song's pregnancy progressing smoothly? My second sister stared at me in terror, falling to her knees with a thud and replying, by the Empress Dowager's blessing, the pregnancy is progressing steadily. I was delighted. For more than a decade, I had groveled and begged them for a living. For the rest of their lives, they would live in trepidation. Your Majesty is a blessed person. You shall surely be blessed with many heirs and endless good fortune. I thought of Zhao Huijin's health. One could never tell. We had been married for a year and a half, and had not yet consummated our marriage. He would hold me every night, complaining of the cold, but never utter a word of this matter. Yet now, even if his health was truly failing, I did not care. My life was already full of joy. How could one ask for perfection in everything, for all one's wishes to come true? That night, Eunuch Wang asked me to come to Linyuan Pavilion. On the way, I asked him what the matter was, and Eunuch Wang was elated once more. His Majesty says he has something to discuss with you. I arrived, but Zhao Huijin was not there. A pair of dragon and phoenix wedding candles flickered in the room, casting a strange, misty atmosphere over everything. Your Highness, I called out, hearing the sound of water from the inner chamber. I walked around the screen. Zhao Huijin was just coming out of his bath, draped in a robe, his wet hair falling down his back. He turned to look at me, his cheeks flushed pink, an alluring spring glow on his face. I froze, raising an eyebrow. Why is no one attending you? I asked. I do not wish to see anyone else. He walked over, resting his head on my shoulder and murmuring softly. I see too many people every day. At night, I only want to be with you. I coughed lightly. Then let me dry your hair, and we will rest early. He hummed softly, letting me dry his hair. I asked if he was cold, and he looked up at me, nodding. I'm cold. Hold me, my lady. With that, he wrapped his arms around my waist, lifting me to sit on his lap and holding me close. Truly much warmer now. I did not know whether to laugh or cry, pushing him gently. When other men marry, it is for this and that, but you married me just to keep warm. He looked up at me and smiled. In the flickering candlelight, his eyes were soft, his smile tender and charming. My lady is far more than a warmth for my body. He took my hand, placing it on his chest. This place too, is warm and bright because of you. I lowered my eyes to look at him, and he looked back at me. Though, what do other men marry for? He asked with a smile. It is hard to say. I shall ask someone else, I said. He suddenly tilted my chin up, pressing his lips to mine in a light kiss. Is there such a thing as this? I laughed. He deepened the kiss, and by the time I came to my senses, we were lying down. He asked me, my lady, I want a child next year. Why next year? I fear that once we have a child, my lady will look at me even less, I chuckled, pinching him lightly. I have a question for you. That day Song Xiao Xiao said she saw me smashing the eternal lamp at Fahua Temple. What really happened? Zhao Huijin was evasive at first, but in the heat of the moment, he had no choice but to confess. It turned out he had seen me twice before, and the memory that had stuck with him was the time I had scolded the abbot over my mother's eternal lamp. At that time, he had thought that if he were to die, he too would want someone to light a lamp for him. Later, he had investigated my identity and learned of my circumstances. Instead of sending a marriage proposal, he had arranged for the imperial edict of marriage to ward off ill fortune. He had calculated that I would beg to marry him. Desperate to leave that home, he had also calculated that only in this way could I use the marriage as leverage to negotiate terms with my father. Sure enough, everything had unfolded exactly as he had planned. As for not consummating the marriage, he had thought that my heart did not belong to him, and that it would wrong me to act on desire without affection. You have thought of everything so carefully, I said, pointing to the bed curtain. Not even the eyes in that curtain can compare to the scheming in your bones. Zhao Huijin kissed me, chuckling softly. Say what you will, as long as I have you, I care for nothing else. I smiled, glancing at the candlelight in the distance. How fortunate I was. That day I stepped forward and told my father I would marry him.